Office of the space in itself, aside from the display space that you already have been through, the museum actually has 3 components. It's supposed to be with research. Relationships with so many on that, looking for information, not that you find online. Things that these artists probably would keep or lose, like notebooks. Those are the kind of things we're going to gather for research purposes. We're starting to work towards having our conservatory and preservation section. It's a restoration section, which works perfectly for us because our faculty has already for several years been running programs on methods and materials, and under methods and materials there's a section for preservation and conservation of art. So it's not a full-fledged course here. It's not even a full-fledged course anywhere close to us. So hopefully it would be filling a huge gap, not just for our community, but for artists and art collectors around us. We hope it becomes a service point moving forward.
I'm very happy about this because, like you have rightly said, that I've been here for a decade. Yeah, you see, we have Yusuf Gilo Gallery, and coming now to have Yaba Art Museum is very, very good. And we have to thank God for the people that sponsor the Ford Foundation for that, for this achievement. We thank God. And you see, this Yaba Art Museum is one and the first in all higher institutions in Nigeria, the first and in the higher institution in Nigeria. As we all know, Yaba Art School is still the best. So we are coming again as the best to produce the largest art museum in any higher institution in this country.
For years, those in the school of art, they have been dreaming of having something like this. But it is a matter of money. There's no money backing, nothing. So, but when he was now asking us, he talked to us about the policy, said, okay, we'll look into that. He said, okay, so if you are coming because they are interested in art, why don't we join it with? He said, that's all right. But he now told us that one will not fetch us much. That, okay, the college, since inception of the college, 1947, we have Department of Art. Later, it metamorphoses into School of Art. Do we have a collection center for all the arts? We said no. He said, well, what if you have a mini museum? I said, okay, that's a great idea. Now asked us to go and write proposal. So we left that place. So we rub mind, we write, we sent to him. Did some correction, he sent it back to us. But along the line, we found out that we cannot do it alone. because we are science-based. So we need somebody that is fast in art. And that was how Dr. Rimolade came in. And the three of us, we wrote the proposal. He helped us fine-tune it. And that was how we get the grant of $100,000 for this project. But like I said, it is not this project alone. So 3 projects. This is the major one. Then we have the exhibition and we have the policy. So on the 25th of November this year, that is when we launch.
In this part of the world, when it comes to art school, I think Yaba Art School has been on for over 70 years, and that's quite a record. And with that, which means that her seeds are all over the place globally, right? So when it comes to adding to the content of what we have in here, in fact, we're just starting, right? Because we have a lot of people, alumni outside there that are willing, to actually have donate to this particular, museum, right? And so, like I told you earlier on, constantly, we'll be having this, enriching the collection. So, because like I told you, what we have, some of, students' works, lecturers, as well as supporters out there, right? If there's anything we are aiming at, it's, because we know what is happening outside there, and this is what we are ready to give locally. Now, come to the artifacts that are out there. Why do we travel out there to see those works? It's because of the way they've been packaged, and that is where, because you have a lot of, information about those things, those works, where they are, and when you see some of the promotions about them, you want to see them, right? So if there's anything, there's a question you ask whether we are ready for it. I want to say here in Yaba College of Technology, we are even ready, right? In the sense that the kind of space we have, the kind of packaging we are ready to give works in our collection, certainly it will compete favorably with what you have outside there. Because the fear, as far as I'm concerned, regarding our artifacts out there is it's because people troop out there to look at them because of the way they've been presented, the way they've been packaged, right? And if such works are eventually repatriated, how are we sure that we want to, because what they've done, that has value to them. We might decide that right. The onus is on us to see packaging, adding value to that. And I want to tell you, people want to, wherever they are, they want to come down here to see those works. Because
essentially, the role of museum is so very important to community, the country, and the world at large. The museum is a point where you keep the treasures, the family treasures are exchanged. So that all people on the side look and side. They provide a total document the whole of a goal. And the rest artifacts and works that are
so documents culture. And because this one is situated within the academic environment, it's a place where students can learn from the past works of other students that have left the place over a period of time. Because if you look at the works here, they are from different departments and they carry different philosophies and ideas which the students could actually tap into. The museum it opens avenue for people to come in see how we have lived over the years, the history of our environment.
The museum in itself, aside from serving, the aesthetic purposes that people come to see, the hope is that it would serve not just for
museum is also to educate, apart from charting a history for people, is to educate you, record extension them, find that you have already attracting economic business environment, which is the characteristics of every museum anywhere in the whole world. There is going to be some souvenirs that you can be important. The museum, everybody around is aware, and then the is also being taught indirectly, so that everybody will know that things that you have, even Agbada for this is, you don't know anything. the museum, the role, the position here is going to play.
Work together. Mind you, we're not just gathering works here for gathering's sake, because every work we have is a collection, certainly of each of those works. That is the artist, the year it is made, the materials, and what the content of the work. No. This is more like a research center, as you have, in other climes, such as about the artist, you can always come here and, you can have all that you can gather regarding the work, the artist, everything about the artist we are actually gathering here, we have here. So it's not just going to be a place where you just have the works alone. No. Everything concerning the artist, and its art, then, which means that for historians, for researchers, it's a place to be, right? So because it's going to compete favorably with other institutions, museum around the world. That is our dream, and with the fact that we're also being supported by Ford Foundation, I think that is also a plus, because once we have such a foundation backing us, I think you want to know that, I want to believe that it's not just going to be a local thing, it's going to be a global, one, whereby everything, that has to do with art, especially staff and students, Yaba Collect Technology, can be assessed.
This museum has a lot of importance to the environment, and all the students and everybody, we are all gearing up to embrace this. And at the national level, you find that one role museum plays is that immediately people arrive somewhere, they say, please, I would like to see this, I would like to see that. So it becomes a cultural destination. And I think that's another cultural tourism. There's a lot of potential that institution of a museum like this will generate once it kicks off fully.
Funny thing about art is that it finds its way to insinuate itself into every single aspect of what you do, consciously or unconsciously. So it's very strange to say you want to cut art out of anything. Even when you want to write about cutting it out, you need the artist to help you do that. But then when you talk about sponsorship or support, I think the first thing I should say, this is a federal institution, and we've been so fortunate with the rector that we currently have in the institution. There's nothing you want to do, particularly in these times. If you don't have political will, nothing is going to happen. But then the rector has championed the cause with so much energy and supported it at every turn. So I think that is a positive thing, because he works for the government.
Most of the work say that some of them, they are unknown. You see, you know how many years back, I've been lecturing over 20 years ago. And where we are sitting down, here we have Lara Ige. She is based in America, that they sent in their works. Though for those that we cannot, we cannot pick up their names, we will send photographs and say who their classmates. We will look for their classmates that can identify the owner of the works. So that's why we are still working. You see, it's still new. We are still working, asking who is the owner of this. You see, like my classmate here, I finished from this place. And my classmates here, I have their works. I could be able to say this is so person's work. You see, and you know, a lot has happened concerning these works that we are presenting here, because they are asking us. Some are still bringing their works, but as time goes on, I think we'll improve on all those things.
When you look at the Benin bronze, the Ife terraculture, the Igboku, and the Nok culture, you are able to now say, okay, at this point in time, you mean there were Nigerians that reasoned and did this work. And so you can use that to project a roadmap and development of a country. Unfortunately, this that was built is at some point in time, I don't refer to it in a total society. The family for years and when you have find the or achievement is it that the museum is look at all these artifacts you are talk about dynasties, you talk what and people be a group that form you the future.
We're looking for support from other areas. We already hope negative that start of a start, if because we've had a on this, and anyone that knows about research knows that it's not enough time to gather anything. We've done what we can so far, and currently our collection is about a little over 2,000 pieces. This all the work from school in itself. When I say the school, I mean starting all the way from 1933, contrary to popular opinion of 1948. But then the School of Art in itself, its beginning started in 1952, and which means in 2 years' time, it's 70, making us the very oldest one around.
And problems, challenges that are peculiar to us, we know them, right? So, and also, once you know your challenges, your problems, certainly it's half solved, because it's to know how to go about it. And with that, I think as an art school, we know what we need, we know what we do to preserve. And certainly the need for us to take the right step in assessing this, in doing this. All these have been, have been planned out, and we work job to do for the artworks, because they must be maintained at a particular temperature, right? First, the museum, this particular space, we know what we went through to be able to, secure it. Regarding some of the elements that we battle with, to be able to, have it the way it is. With still a lot of things put in place to be able to, keep it going. Because, like you rightly observe, yes, in Nigeria we know that we, down to except air that is free to us, every other thing you just have to fight for it. And as a museum, certainly all these are being worked out so that, we don't just have, it will not seems as if we are just a flash in the pan. No, continuity, maintenance is very, very key, and we are seriously working at that, and I want to believe that very soon we're still going to invite you. We discover that because yet, right? Because yes, we have this space. No, it's just about this space. There are lots that we still need to do regarding the work, because it's not just about this space, but about the content, right? So, which is very important. And you're talking about the content. You're talking about the been doing that. So we are aware of these challenges, and headlong we are battling it.
How many museums we do have in Lagos? We have just the National Museum. And coming to have Yaba Art Museum, it's something else. You see, we have a lot of they don't have because a lot of people, when we placed last month, in fact, people have been praising the college for this upbringing, and it's very, very good, because most of the people will be benefiting. You see, most of the works we are seeing here are products of our ex-students, and most of the products you are seeing here, we are the supervisors. Like you see, the work I'm sitting behind is my work. This work you are seeing behind me is dedicated to the African children, and again dedicated to the children that died during the bomb blast. That's why I said I prefer to sit down where this work is, because it's for a purpose.
Hoping to have so many events that are worked into the programs of the museum. Exposure, we're going to become very
The Osun-Oshogbo Sacred Grove in Oshogbo, Osun State, southwest Nigeria, is one of the last remnants of primary high forest in southern Nigeria. Site have a center for millions of people who visit the site annually to worship and celebrate the Osun goddess that is believed to inhabit the river that runs through the grove, giving the water the ability to heal and grant wishes of its believers.
Osun Grove
The Osun Oshogbo Sacred Grove in Oshogbo, Osun State, southwest Nigeria, is one of the last remnants of primary high forest in southern Nigeria. The site, a natural habitat that has been preserved for over 400 years, has served as both a pilgrim point as well as a tourist center for millions of people who visit the site annually to worship and celebrate the Osun goddess that is believed to inhabit the river that runs through the grove, giving the water the ability to heal and grant wishes of its believers.
Osun Grove happened to be a site that we all refer to as a living site. It's a living site just because activities that have been carried out over the years are still performed the way it used to be then. And secondly, it is a site where the worshippers do come to perform every 5th of the day, which means 5 days. They do come. For example, in churches, we go to churches during the week, but on Sunday, we christen it to be, we go to church on Sunday. Likewise, the Muslim goes to mosque on Friday. So despite the fact that the devotees do come interval, but they have a 5 day, which they call Ojose. Aside this, the uniqueness of this site is the name Oshogbo was derived from this site. The appellation of the king was derived from this site.
From the entrance, one could feel the tranquility that comes with the well-preserved forest. A little further down comes another feeling of an elevated being's dwellings. This is the Osun Oshogbo Sacred Grove, one of the last sacred forests in Nigeria, along the banks of the Osun River, just outside the city of Oshogbo, Osun State, southwest Nigeria. In this forest of 75 hectares of undisturbed areas of land, no residential building is allowed, no killing of any kind of animal, no fishing, no hunting or felling of trees.
Apart the fact that it is 75 hectares of the core zone,
met a friend on Facebook, a Zambian precisely, so we talked about migration, that's me coming over to Zambia for a good job. So I was into fumigation and clothes selling, mobile sales before I left. So when the thought came of relocating to Zambia, when I checked the economy of both countries, I found out that Zambia, though small, but their currency is quite better than Nigeria. Applied for visa, my visa was granted, I purchased my tickets, and then I left. I flew through Kenya Airline. That was on the 1st of June. I arrived Zambia on the 2nd. And then I called this my friend, and I told him I'm in Zambia. So where I was, he moved me to another lodge, a hotel. And that was where I was assaulted by him. He was even dragging my passport. He wanted to get my passport, my yellow fever vaccine card. But because I hid it very far, he couldn't get access to it. He tore my bag, went away with my BTA. It's $885. And then I didn't see him, he absconded. When he left, he didn't pay the hotel bills. He had gone with my money. I couldn't find my money in my luggage. So when I noticed that things were not what we actually planned, I had to become friends with a gardener boy in that hotel. So that previous night, I was asked to move out of the hotel because he didn't pay the bills. But I noticed that he and the receptionist were in good accordance. So I tried asking the receptionist, did that man tell you he was going to come back? He said no, and he's owing for a night, that I can't stay in that hotel. So they had to seize my luggage, seize my properties. I had to look for where to sleep. So that fateful night, I slept in an abandoned vehicle where I was almost gang raped by 3 guys. I had to start this Nigerian movie. I'm with HIV, I'm with this, I'm with that, So you want to, sleep with me and all that. So they made away with my travel documents, my return tickets and all that. They thought it was an envelope of money. So they went with it after tearing my jean and all that. But they couldn't have access to, because I started shouting. That was around 3 o'clock in the morning. I started shouting, creating scenes, so they ran away. When you leave Nigeria, and I left genuinely, but what I proposed wasn't what I got. So it was while I was in Zambia I discovered I was human trafficked. So it's real. When you go, you come back, you're alive, you just say, God, I thank you, and you pick up the pieces of your life and start all over.
A very good morning to you, Nigeria, and welcome to another edition of What's Your Take? My name is Dayo Akintobi, and I'm here, of course, as always, to talk about the major breaking headline news of the past week. Joining me to do that, as always, is my trusty sidekick and newscaster, Yetunde Afolabi. Yetunde, how are you today?
Good morning, Dayo. I'm very well, thank you.
A very fine morning to you too. How was your weekend?
My weekend was relaxing.
Wonderful. Everything's running smoothly in Nigeria now. We've got cash in our pockets. There's no fuel queues. Elections are done and dusted. Well, we're sitting pretty, aren't we?
Yes, we are. We can't complain.
You can't complain at all. Lovely indeed. And we wish it could always be like that, that everything's rolling copacetically and nice and simply. All right, Nigeria, what do we have for you this week on our show? As always, I start with a little bit of light news for you. Yesterday in Adamawa State, we had a situation of, yes, we've got our first female governor. And then, no, hold on, no, we don't. Yes, we do. No, we don't. And there was some back and forth, and it was a mess. I mean, we got a declaration that says we've got our first female governor. We got an acceptance speech. And then all of a sudden, hold on, hold your horses, put the brakes on. There's suddenly a nullification of the declaration. It sounds very complicated. But fortunately for you all, you're very lucky. I have a legal mind, a legal brain in the studio with me today who's going to tell you all about the legalities of what happened in Adamawa State yesterday. The other thing I wanted to also tell you about is this football player in PSG, a team in France, who got married some time ago, earned a whole bucket load of money, and ended up in divorce court with his wife. And the court ended up ruling The wife claimed half of his property in the divorce proceedings, and the court ruled that she wouldn't get anything because it turned out that all the man's assets were in his mother's name. Can you imagine that? Well, I was scrolling through Twitter Street over the weekend looking at some of the comments, and the first thing I saw was people saying, well, how come he put the assets in his mother's name instead of his father's name? And the responses were, if he had given it to his father, in a moment of weakness, his father would have transferred them all to his side chick. Can you imagine that? Then there were others who said, if Nigeria it as a seed in our church. Twitter, you won't kill us. You won't kill us, Twitter children, Twitter Nigerians, you won't kill us. But thank you for the good humor and for the jocularity. We enjoy going through Twitter and seeing what Nigerians think about global issues. All right, so let's get on to the substantive and major stories after that lighthearted moment. Joining me to take a look at the big stories that made the headlines last week is Jide Ogundimu. Jide is a solicitor and advocate of the Supreme Court of Nigeria. Jide was called to the Nigerian bar over 32 years ago. His firm, Jide Ogundimu & Co. Solicitors, deals with all aspects of law, including property conveyancing, landlord and tenant, estate and will planning, civil litigation, bad debts, private law, etc., etc. However, before I bring him on to discuss these issues with me, let's have Yetunde break down the news items for us, give them to us, then Jide and I will now engage on these various issues. So over to you, Yetunde. What do you have for us in the news today?
Commission's action in wrongly and prematurely declaring the APC candidates the winner. The biggest story of the week, which broke on Sunday, was that the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, has nullified the declaration of the All Progressives Congress APC governorship candidate in Adamawa State, Senator Aishatu Binani. It was also being expected from 10 local government areas when the REC and not the returning officer declared her the winner. Describing the action of the REC as usurpation of the power of the returning officer, INEC faulted the declaration, saying it was null, void, and of no effect. It went on to suspend the collation exercise and summon the REC, the returning officer, and other involved officials to the Commission's headquarters in Abuja. Banana Island's 7-story building collapses. State government's alleged structure lacks permit. No fewer than 7 persons were rescued from the rubble of a 7-story building under construction that collapsed on Wednesday in the Banana Island area of Ikoyi, Lagos State. One dead body was recovered from the debris by Lagos State's Emergency Management Agency, LASEMA, workers. The Lagos State's Ministry of Physical Planning and Urban Development has said that no approval was given for the construction of the collapsed structure. The state government has since ordered that all development projects in the Highborough area be placed on hold pending an audit and integrity tests. According to documents obtained by the Punch newspaper, Lagos State has recorded a staggering 115 building collapses in the past 10 years. In 2022 alone, the state recorded 20 incidents of building collapse.
Okay, thanks, Yetunde. I'm sure Jide will have a strong opinion on that issue of the legality of all these structural collapses. So let's have the next story, Yetunde.
On Peter Obi's detention at London Heathrow Airport, a case of impersonation. On Wednesday, the head Obi Dati Media, Diron Onifade, announced that the Labour Party presidential candidate, Peter Obi, was on Good Friday, April 7, 2023, detained in London by UK immigration officials over alleged impersonation. The Labour Party spokesperson said while the party continues to examine any dubious or political motive on the part of the perpetrators of the identity theft, it's had every confidence in the ability of the British authorities to resolve the matter to a just conclusion.
Okay, thank you, Yetunde. And finally, let's talk about the race for the Senate presidency.
Okay. Race for Senate presidency. No fewer than 4 northern senators have indicated an interest in the race for the Senate presidency, including senators from Kano, Niger, Zamfara, and the current Senate president, Ahmed Lawan, who is from Yobe State. The emergence of any of these contenders opens up the possibility of the number 1, 2, and 3 citizens of the country all being Muslim. Party chieftains of the APC in the South-South and Southeast have called for the zoning if the Senate presidency to their regions in the spirit of fairness and to give other geopolitical regions a sense of belonging in view of the Muslim-Muslim presidential tickets adopted by the parties. All yours, Dayo.
Okay, all right. So those are the headlines that we'll be looking at today. We'll take a short break, and when we return, I'll be joined by my guest in the studio. Stay with us, don't go away.
Hello, Alhaji. Right now I'm in Abuja. No. Hello, Adamu. Right now I'm in Kano. Yes. When I get back, I'll just call you.
Look, what is wrong with you? I'm talking on the phone and you are gesticulating and doing. What's wrong with you?
Daddy, where exactly are we as we speak?
Are you alright? This is Lagos.
Well, you just lied to someone that we are in Abuja.
Keep quiet. Who told you you can tell an elderly person is lying?
Daddy, you just lied. And by lying, you are raising corrupt children for the future of Nigeria. That is corruption, not in my country. Corruption, not in my country.
Welcome back. Thank you for staying with us. In the spirit of still being lighthearted, I wanted to congratulate Dino Melaye for winning the PDP primary. So if he does succeed and goes all the way to the governorship lodge, it means we'll have a dancing governor on the one hand and a singing governor on the other hand. Can you imagine what it will be at a meeting at the Governors Forum with those two in the house? Boy, interesting times ahead. All right, Nigeria. My guest today, as I've introduced him before, is Jide Ogundimu, who is a lawyer, solicitor, and advocate of the Nigeria Supreme Court. Welcome to What's Your Take, Jide.
Thank you very much, Dayo, and thank you for having me on your program.
It's lovely to have you here today, and I think we'll have an interesting and engaging time, especially since many of the topics we mentioned have legal angles to them.
Certainly. Yeah.
Absolutely. So let's look at the Adamawa run. I'm sure you've been following, or at least you're aware of what happened in Adamawa yesterday in terms of the primary issue, of course, is that the resident electoral commissioner announced a winner while results were still being expected from 10 local governments, and it's not even the REC's job to announce any winner. That is the job of the returning officer. So INEC has nullified the declaration and called an emergency meeting in Abuja today. Of course, it's open season on the REC, and everybody's wondering, what was he thinking? What did he, was he coerced? Was he bribed? What was he trying to do? What do you think in terms of electoral laws? Are they written in such a way to avoid a hijack of the process as tried to happen yesterday? What does the law, how would the law address such an issue? I've heard people saying he should go to jail. I've heard some say he should be hanged, drawn, and quartered. I mean, what exactly do you make of all this?
It's unfortunate that you're having a situation like this, especially with the female candidates, who, if she does win the election, will end up becoming the first elected female governor of a state in Nigeria. What you have here is that you have the resident electoral officer, commissioner,
yes,
who has usurped the powers of INEC. what should really be happening, apparently the Electoral Act of 2022, 66 and 65, those sections provide that the returning officer who is or who should be nominated by INEC should be the one announcing the results. But what you had here, well, you had this gentleman, the resident electoral officer, suddenly announcing
the returning officer.
The returning, well, the resident electoral officer.
You're right.
Suddenly announcing these results for no reason, when it should really have been carried out by INEC. Now, INEC now believe that their powers have been usurped and have decided to cancel the election, which is unfortunate for this lady. But however, it's a bit funny here, and the reason why I'm saying it's a bit funny was that the PDP candidate, who is the incumbent governor,
yes,
Fintiri,
yes,
had been leading,
yes,
and suddenly, without any warning, you have this residential electoral officer announcing that the winner is now Binali. So it's a bit confusing, because then suddenly, I mean, votes suddenly appeared from nowhere. And then not just that, there were still, you know, as you rightly said, there were still about 10 local governments.
Yes, whose results hadn't been...
Who hadn't come out yet. Yes. And so I just find it, I mean, you rightly said, and I said, I'm a lawyer, it's not right for me to suddenly say that, oh, he's been bribed or whatever. I would love us to get to the bottom of it at some stage. And yes, they were probably right in them ensuring that there's an emergency meeting in Abuja to sort these things out. But one thing I would not like to see is another re-election. Because it is an election, it's cost the taxpayer money. Elections are extremely expensive. And the last thing you want to do is to, I mean, I'm not too sure who really won the election, but March 12th, it was null and void. And then suddenly you're now getting last Saturday, null and void. I mean, where does it stop?
Where does it end? Yeah,
where does it end?
Absolutely.
So we hope that things will be sorted out in Abuja. Let's hope that the election is not to be run again for the third time.
Yes, my worry ultimately is that even if Binani ends up being declared the winner, her victory will be tainted, because people will look at what has happened now and think that it was a manufactured victory, and that might not be fair to her. And this is my concern, is that how does she get justice? Or even if Fintiri, who was leading, ends up being declared, there are some who will cry foul and say, but Binani had been declared. So either way, it's not going to be a clean outcome.
I think we can, I mean, INEC are meant to be competent and they're reputable. They're meant to be dependent, and that's what they call the National Electoral Commission. If they, I mean, because they cancelled it, and if they find that there was no foul play involved in the election, and if she is successful, that is Binali, and if they announce that she is the rightful winner, then I don't think there should be any problem at all. I don't think so at all. If anything at all, I think, yeah, I mean, Finitri should accept defeat if he is defeated, and allow the gentle lady to take her place as governor.
Very good. So Nigeria will continue to wait to see if we'll get our first elected female history. Banana Island 7-story building collapses. 155 buildings collapsed in Lagos in the last 10 years. 20-something odd in 2022 alone. With the 4-score building, the tower, 1 out of 3 that came down and killed several dozens of people, including the developer himself. What do you think is responsible for these building collapses? The Lagos State government is saying the Banana Island building didn't have an approval. But if you say a building does not have an approval, and yet you see work commence, you see the first floor go up, you see the second, the third, the fourth, buildings don't spring up to 7 floors overnight. They are a progressive development. And the Lagos State Building Control Agency has offices all over the place. So they're seeing this thing going up. Is it that they're not inspecting? Is it that they're not asking questions? Or is it that they've been compromised in some way? what can be done to arrest the spate of building collapses as causing loss of valuable human life?
Yes, it's funny you said this because this is a very complex topic, because I had actually written an article about this several years ago.
Okay.
And in fact, about 10 years ago to be precise. And the reason why the article was written was because there were lots of building collapses in Lagos State. I'm not just talking about the Banana Island or the Ikoyis, but we're talking about
across the entire state.
Across the entire state, there were places in Mushin, Agege, whereby when the rains came, they were collapsing and killing loads of people, and lots of people were being injured. And so I decided to write this article. To be fair with the Lagos State government, they did bring out some legislation under the Fashoda government, and this was this actually created an agency called the Lagos State Building Control Agency. The role of that agency is to ensure that building control and building plan is complied with. So say, for instance, if you are to get planning permission. Now, ensure that the planning is compliant with the right materials are used. If the right materials are not used, then they close it.
We're having this many collapses.
Well, that's exactly what I'm about. Obviously, limitations they are. Not experienced. They are not experienced and they lack that exposure.
But then why should they be employed in that position to do something that has to do with human life?
Well, exactly, and that's the whole thing. I mean, when I wrote that article a few years ago, I was indicating to them, or to my readers, that what we need is that we need to ensure that employees or staff that are employed at this agency are up to date, the standards that were required of people like them, because we have lives at stake here. The other thing I was going to say was corruption. Somebody will go and inspect a building, for instance, and then find out that it's not up to standard. However, they will let it go.
Yes.
The other thing again that you have is infrastructure. They have lack of infrastructure to carry out these tests of buildings.
Yes.
And then you also have again lack of resources.
Yes.
People that are meant to be going around to ensure that, but they cannot deal with it. It's overwhelming for them. So that's the situation we have with the Lagos State, the challenges they're facing the Lagos State Building Control Agency.
And there's also the issue of shoddy construction materials, poor quality construction materials.
Well, that is the job.
Well.
That's the job for the Lagos State Building to look out for. But obviously they lack the resources to deal with it.
I understand.
So for instance, you have on the 7th floor you have one of the slabs that broke.
Yes.
And that's what caused the collapse.
Collapse. Yes, of course. All right. Well, we pray for the repose of the souls of those. Well, I understand 7 people were injured and 1 person lost his life. But for everybody who's had a loss of life of a relative or injury to a loved one in any of these building collapses, we pray for the repose of their soul, and we also hope that the government will buck up and begin to oversee these things and regulate the industry a bit better.
Certainly.
All right, let's move on to the next topic because we are fast running out of time. Peter Obi was detained in London's Heathrow Airport. You lived in London for a long time. They say it's a case of impersonation. What does that mean? What are they talking about?
Well,
from a legal standpoint and from a UK resident standpoint.
Well,
what is that?
I'm aware that you have got lots of time, but I'm going to make this clear now. Everybody is subject to the rule of law. Nobody is immune from it. And as a matter of fact, I'm surprised that you see the problem we have in Nigeria is that we get too emotional. When Peter Obi is not an elected member of government or Nigerian government, so he's just like any other person. He goes through Heathrow like any other person. He's not being considered a diplomat or anything of the sort. But he's gone to Heathrow Airport. He's been flagged up as possibly someone involved in some form of crime, And like any other person, you know, he's been investigated. He was investigated. They checked him out. They found that his story was true, and they released him. So I don't really think there's anything more to do with. I mean, as a matter of fact, I mean, let's think about it. A few weeks ago, I was at a Boris Johnson speech at the Marriott Hotel. I believe right in front of me was Peter Obi, and I remember Boris indicating that, well, everybody is subject to the rule of law, including himself, when he was Prime Minister. As a matter of fact, he joked that I was persecuted for just having a cup of tea at my desk. So really, what I'm saying here is that the fact that he hasn't been persecuted, he hasn't been arrested. I mean, he has been not arrested, as a matter of fact. He's always been just called for questioning by the immigration officers, like what I would do, any of us would go through. So
no special privileges.
No special privilege for anybody.
We're all subject to the same.
Everybody's subject to the rule of law, and I'm happy it happened. That this is England, and that's what we do in England. I also practice law in England anyway, so I know what we all go through. So yes.
Thank you, Jide.
No
All
problem.
right, our final story today, as we're almost out of time. This race for the Senate presidency. No fewer than 4 northern senators have indicated an interest in the race for the Senate presidency. How does that strike you, Jide, that the number 1 and the number 2 citizens of Nigeria are Muslims, and in spite of the fact that the country has a delicate balance between Muslim and Christian, that there's also now a push for the number 3 citizen to also be a Muslim? Do you find it alarming that some people are considering making a Muslim the next Senate president? Will this not be the height of insensitivity? I mean, having Muslims as number 1 and number 2, that Muslim ticket, already inflamed passions in certain quarters amidst unending claims of and speculation of an Islamization agenda, whatever that means. I have heard that term thrown around all over the place. I've never really understood what it means, how you Islamize anybody. And so what do you think? Some people are saying, some of the senators, the northern senators are saying the Senate leadership should be the most competent person, that sentiments of ethnicity and religion should take a back seat, that the Senate is too pivotal to the progress and development of the country and the well-being of our people to begin to allow sentiments to prevail in terms of where somebody comes from or who they worship. And as a result, let's look for the most competent hands. And they are trying to say the most competent hands at this point in time and the most experienced are from the north, and that's all that should matter. How do you see this delicate balance in terms of religion and ethnicity in Nigeria today?
My take is as follows. The best man should go for the job, or the best man should be chosen for the job, not where he comes from or what what religion he practices or whatever. We just want the best man for the job. And this has been going on for years, especially in Nigeria. It starts off with states or region. It started back in the 60s as we want an Igbo man here or a Yoruba man over there. Okay, they complied with that. You had this quota thing. And then now started with states. And now you have religion. Without being funny, religion is by choice. And that's the way I look at it. It's not embedded that you're a Muslim. If you feel that you're a Christian and things are not going well for you, then, then become a Muslim. And that's the way I look at it. You're not born. Yes, you were born a Muslim. Your parents.
You're born into a Muslim family.
You're born into a Muslim family.
But you're not born a Muslim.
Exactly.
You're not born a Christian.
Yes, you can change it if you want to. But that's besides the point. My point here is that why don't we just get the best man for the job? And that's the problem we have in Nigeria. We don't get the best man for the job. We get a bunch of certain people because of their ethnicity and their religion, or, I was going to say color, but then again, we're all black here anyway.
Well, there's racism here, only we call it tribalism.
Yes, that's what you call tribalism, exactly. Yeah. So it's unfortunate. I'm actually against the idea. If the guy is a Muslim and he's good for the job, so be it.
So you'd be okay if all of our leaders came from one particular section of the country,
if they're good enough,
worship the same God and looked the same way, spoke the same language, if they all came from the same place, as long as they made Nigeria better, you're okay with it?
Well, exactly. I'm actually surprised that these people are saying this, because if they really love Nigeria, they would actually want a better person, a person that is, good enough, equipped enough to do the job. You understand me now? Competently to have that job. But when you're now saying that, I want a Muslim, without being funny, a Muslim could be useless. And that's what you have anyway in Nigeria. You have people that were not meant to be in those posts.
A Christian could be useless.
A Christian could be useless as well.
A Buddhist could be useless.
A Buddhist could be
so
useless.
So what you're saying is religion doesn't determine competence.
It doesn't, exactly.
All right, thank you very much.
We should do away with this nonsense.
Thank you very much, Jide. We're out of time. And that's it for today, folks. Thank you for joining us on another edition of What's Your Take? A very interesting one with our guest today, Jide Ogundimu, Solicitor and Advocate of the Supreme Court of Nigeria. Jide, it's been a very engaging time. I look forward that you should come back again when we have more time and we can engage the issues a lot more.
I really appreciate coming here. Thank you very much, Dayo.
Thank you, Nigeria. My name is Dayo Akintobi. I look forward to seeing you again. Here's wishing you a wonderful day and a great week ahead. Best.
As technology continues to advance globally, Nigerian youths are ensuring that they take the center stage of the fast-paced world of innovative inventions. From creating impressive programs to inventing new products, Nigerian youths are daily enhancing the quality of life and entrepreneurship that has a huge impact across Africa and the globe. Hello and welcome to another episode of Startups with me, Abisola Adebayo. On the program today, we'll be talking to two of these geniuses that are using technology to enhance the country's development. In Oyo State, Southwest Nigeria, Olushola Ayola has established a center to train Nigerians on robotics and artificial intelligence. And in Lagos, Onyeka Owika has created an application that helps save power consumption. How exactly are these guys able to do all of this? I'm just as curious as you are, but we'll be finding out in just a moment.
What RAIN does is the first of its kind in Nigeria and perhaps in West Africa, because we receive applications from Egypt, Liberia, Ghana, and so on. We do training and certification in robotics and artificial intelligence, which is the future. And developed countries are already beginning to struggle to take a position there. So normally Africa or Nigeria should just wait for all of that to be developed first before we take interest. But RAIN is saying no to that. My name is Dr. Olushola Ayola. I'm the founder of Robotics and Artificial Intelligence Nigeria.
Artificial intelligence, AI, is the technology of making machines perform tasks considered possible only with human intelligence. This technology has ushered in tremendous opportunities, leading to leapfrog development and attainment of economic growth and prosperity across developed and developing nations of the world. However, the giant of Africa, adoption has been slow, mainly due to the lack of adequate knowledge about the technology. Having lived and schooled in the United Kingdom for years, helping the country with developing ground and underwater robots and artificial intelligence, Olushola Ayola decided to return home and help his home country with the skill set and experience he's acquired. This electrical engineer was determined to prove that AI can improve the livelihood of Nigerians only if there can be enough Nigerian-based experts in the promising field. In 2019, he founded Robotics and Artificial Intelligence Nigeria RAIN, a foremost training, research and innovation center focused on the creation and development of artificial intelligence-enabled technology.
I mean, when I was done with my PhD and I was done with saving and I was done with working there, even though I was working in a robotics company that was helping the UK government to decommission their nuclear storage sites, I felt it was time to go and develop that skill in Nigeria for my people. Because many times when the UK needs to get a particular robot built, they do the design there, they send it to China. So China guys would actually build the robot and send it back to UK. And I felt, wait, why can't they send it to Nigeria? Because after all, I'm the one in the company that China will send it back to, and I'll try to get it back to standard. Unfortunately, whenever I tried to contact people in Nigeria, do you know how to use this? Do you know how to use that? They all say, no, we're not taught, or Nigeria. And so we set it up. If we had said you can only come to RAIN if you are a computer science graduate with 2-1 or anything, we'll be limiting a number of people. Because you would agree with me that many people are very good when it comes to hands-on, but may not be good when it comes to WAEC or NECO or all those JAMB exams. And so, for us at RAIN, to get into RAIN to study, you need to be above 15 years old. So that means you should have finished secondary school, and you should have a credit pass in your mathematics at O levels. That's it.
Ayola prides in the quality of training and infrastructure RAIN offers its trainees. He says the plan is to compete with standards from developed nations and produce the next generation of AI experts to contribute to the country's development.
It's been a series of eureka moments. Wow, we did it again. Typically in Nigeria, and this is one thing we have learned a lot from the experience in the past, you don't set up an institution to look like the normal African standard, Nigerian standard. You have to raise the bar. So we were not competing with anybody in Nigeria. We were competing with the standards I met in the UK, which were my vision for Nigeria. It's cool, it's homely, just friendly, environment friendly. You have a hangout spot, you have a kitchen, you have relaxation games, all of that, and you have internet. Supply. You have projectors, you have all that students. We have all that. When unemployment provided the government or the people need. Secondly, because just by having a pool of talent in the area of AI, you're a leader, global leader. Now, when people look for AI solutions globally, they just go on Google and search artificial intelligence developers across the world, and RAIN puts Nigeria on the map.
Since establishment has been experiencing a steady growth, Ayola says students in the tech field are eager to enroll and is also been receiving partnership with government, local and national, and develop artificial intelligence products.
It's growth on growth as we go. We're training only, and then later we started doing research for people, and now we're doing product development. So it's like we keep going higher. Of course, investors have been coming as well to say, can we buy this company off you? Can we take over? Can we expand it quickly enough? And I'm like, let's just all calm down. Let's see where we're heading, because I can't quantify the worth of the company until we get to a point where I can see everything from up there. We had business deals, project deals with major companies. I can't mention their names now, but then about 3 major companies. One is on drone for parcel delivery, another is on energy. Now, this is to say a few, because we have other in some areas we cannot talk about. But then, for us, it's a milestone because we started off as a training institution, and now we are moving into product development. And this is the curve that if we can continue in that trajectory, there is no way saying we've got to the end point yet. We haven't.
But these achievements did not come on a platter of gold. Ayola says setting up RAIN was not a walk in the park, especially in a country where electricity is a luxury.
Money is never enough. You want to set up a world-class institution, you're competing with people who spend billions and trillions to set up same thing. So how do you set up same thing with lower and lower budget? That was the biggest challenge for me. How do I make this place look expensive even though I'm not spending all of that money? Because I'm not the richest in Nigeria to be able to set up something like this. People walk in here and say, wow, billions have gone into this. Well, yes, billions, but not billions in money, but billions in ideas. Because my first challenge was I must make this place look like $1 billion has been spent on it, even if I don't have that. And that was the first challenge. We did that. We did that very well. Then the second challenge is the power aspect. We run on 24 hours power. We can't do without power here. This is not a place where power will go off and everybody will be like, let's just wait for NEPA to bring light. We must have constant, because we do 3D printings. And 3D printings, you dare not wait for any second, otherwise you might lose the entire quality. So we do a lot of work, we do a lot of research, interfaces, meetings and all of that, and we need power. So the challenge there has been, how do we maintain steady power? The concept of generator, solar and all of that have come, but they can't meet our needs. We just need constant power from the government. But that's going to be a thing of the past now, because we are working on a project with a UK company on developing homegrown power solutions. And it's going to be a very large project. So one of the big power engines will be domiciled here at RAIN for demonstration and all of that.
Ismaila Surajo is one of the student trainees at RAIN. Surajo used to be a self-taught technician in his little village of Rubochi in Kuje Area Council of Federal Territory. It's been inventing tractors and machines. Surajo got a scholarship to study at RAIN in 2020 after inventing a local water provider in his village. In less than 2 years, the 23-year-old is now developing smart water meter.
I've learned how to program using my system. When I was in school, I can build a car. I'll be the one to control it. But now I can use my system to control it. I intend to become an engineer in robotic design. I can design a robot that can help the community to solve some problem. I make smart water control device. Once you put your card, it on the water for you. You can subscribe on my own water device. I have other projects I'm going to work on.
It's been sponsored by one of the people in government, because he was given an award by the president in November 2020, and now he's developing solutions that will benefit his community directly. He's building a smart water meter that people in the locality can just slot in their smart card, and water is dispensed in their bucket. So that way, what he's trying to do is to encourage lawmakers or people in government to donate boreholes to communities, because the people will not take it for free. They will pay a token using that smart water meter, and by using that token, the money for maintaining that facility, that water infrastructure, is provided.
Ayola has indeed paid his dues in starting up RAIN. His vision is to make an impactful change in Nigeria's development pace and education sector by imparting his knowledge and skills of artificial intelligence. And the company's milestone so far shows he's right on track.
Give RAIN about 5 years or less, and you'll be surprised that many things we look for outside would be produced in-house. And it's not going to be RAIN only, it's going to be offshoots of RAIN, people that RAIN has actually promoted or produced, and they are the ones that would begin to solve these problems. So if you look at 10 years from now, you'll see big entrepreneurs saying, I decided to set up this business after my training at Rain, and I figured out that this was a major business need for the country. And of course, there you go. So we are really helping the country to prepare for the future now. The structure we've set up, fine, AI is not new in the world. Set up for AI and robotics. No facility in the world has set that up. Where you do training and certification, where you do research and projects for everybody, not for your company. For example, they have a research institute where they do research. We are not research and development. So in the future, Rain may be not a Nigerian-based company any longer, but a global body, competing with the likes of SpaceX and so on. Because we have all of that model embedded in what we are doing.
The technological advancement of any society is hinged on its ability to invent and innovate, as these are the cardinal bedrock upon which development is built and sustained. With Rain's drive to nurture and train the next generation of AI experts in Nigeria, one can say the country is well on its way to achieving sustainable development. I'm actually excited for the country. I mean, imagine the potentials of these experts that Rain will be churning out. Anyways, this next innovator will blow your mind. With his invention, you wouldn't even need to lift a finger to reduce your power consumption and control a lot of home appliances.
Okay, at Ving Global Technologies, we create solutions for human with our full home and office automation. We do that with our OVO products and our OVO Smart app, where we make life easy for everyone. They can have total control of their home, their offices, and their hotels. And they can do all that without a human intervention using our OVO Smart app. They can control everything in their home and save the cost of their electricity bills. They can know who comes into their home at every given point. They can turn off the electrical appliances and every of the appliances at anywhere they are in the world. My name is Onyeka Onwoka. I'm the CEO of Ving Global Technologies Limited. Computer, turn on bedroom lights.
Okay. Who would have ever thought that in decades to come in Nigeria, words of mouth will be able to control gadgets without having to move an inch? From carrying out big tasks to attending to menial errands, engineers across the world are leveraging technology to make life easier for people. One of such innovative engineers is Onyeka Onwoka, a 32-year-old graduate from the National Metallurgical Training Institute in Anambra, Southeast Nigeria. Bothered by the high energy consumption plaguing his country, Onyeka decided to establish Ving Global Technologies, an engineering technology outfit, under which he developed a comfortable solution to help people control their home and electrical appliances from anywhere in the world through an automatic systemic app. He calls it the OVO Smart application.
It has been a very long time. I started developing this app, and the reason why I started developing it was I've seen people leaving their home appliances on. They left their home appliances on and went out and then came back and started complaining about their electricity bills being piling up, forgetting that once it's turned off, your electricity bills won't be reading. So I started looking for a way to help people do all that. I've seen people turn on their gas on and leave it, then they forget to turn it off. They might be carried away seeing a movie, or they might be carried away watching social media. So I started looking for a way to help people do all that without human intervention. I started looking for a way to help people turn off their appliances off, turn off their gas. Then that was what led me to create the OVO Smart app. Let's say if you want to control the light, you buy our OVO switch lights. When you buy it, you don't need to change your bulbs, just the controller. So you buy the light and then you don't need to break your walls. All you need to do is to change the fittings. If you already have the old fittings, the manual fitting, you just change the fittings and then use our fitting. So once you use our fitting, you sync it with the OVO Smart app, and then from there you can control your lights. If you want to control your gas, we have our gas controller that you can use in your gas cylinder. Then if you want to control your TV, you use our IR, our OVO IR controller to control your TV. You can use it to control your AC. You can use our OVO water heater switch to control your water heater. You can also use our gate controller to open your gates and close your gates. Within Global Technologies, we make sure your security is intact. Within Global Technologies, we make sure that your electricity bills is being slid down to 60%. Within Global Technologies, we make sure your comfort is what you need. We'll make sure that you have comfort, total comfort. We'll make sure you have that easy lifestyle.
By connecting their devices to the OVO Smart app and the internet, users can control them all without moving an inch. All they need is a voice command, smartphone, or fingerprints. Onyeka says the OVO Smart app is connected to all the OVO products designed by his team. The customers then connect the product to the appliances. When the customer then orders the app to do a task, it gets notification once the task is completed.
What our OVO Smart app does is whenever it does any command being said by you, it will notify you that it has done it. So let's say someone comes to your home and you unlock remotely. Once the person gains access, it will notify you on your phone that the person has already gained access. So you can see the person with your OVO camera and you can have a conversation with the person, and once you turn off your gas as well, it will notify you that your gas is being turned off. So it doesn't just turn it off and leave you blindly. So once it does the command you set, it will notify you immediately that it has done this for you. Even hotel owners, they use our sensors. Once you have a guest and the person check in, you can see it will notify you that a guest just checked in your room. So it will notify you as a hotel owner. You don't need to be in the hotel to ask your management what rooms we are fully occupied. Is my rooms fully booked? From your OVO Smart app, you get notification. You get notified that your rooms, if it's fully booked, you will get the notification. If 20 rooms were booked, you get notification. So all those things, you get notification from anywhere you are in the world.
Onyeka launched the OVO Smart app in 2020. Working in a country where electricity is not stable, he says achieving this feat was not a walk in the park.
Developing an app, you have to do the graphics, you have to write the codes. So I did all that with my team. In my team, I have a graphic designer that designs the graphic that I need to do. the commands. I wrote the commands on my own. So the challenges I was facing that time was I need to always test run. The challenges I was facing was the power issue, because I have to test my app with a generator and also test my app with the power from the government. So if I want to test it, I'll have to wait for the lights to come so that I will test it. So those were the challenges I was having at the moment while developing the app. But after all said and done, it came out a success. I'm trying to set up the internet to be able to run the program using a minimal internet to charge in kilobytes and not in megabytes. So with ₦1,000 subscription, all your appliances will be running. And we also try to make it work with every internet providers, like MTN, Airtel, Etisalat, every internet providers. We also try to make it work with all that.
Since the launch of the application, Onyeka says he and his team continues to work to improve on the application and introduce more features to make life easier for customers.
We have our competitors, and that is why we are working hard every day to make sure we give in the best quality. When we started our app, there was no virtual assistant. What I mean by virtual assistant is using your voice to control everything. You know, it's not every time you go to the app and start scrolling, looking for the light that is on and off. So we brought in, because as each day goes in, we keep on pushing. And now you can sync our Ovo Smart app with your Siri, with your Google Assistant, with your Alexas. So we keep on bringing the best every day. That is why we work hard to make sure we are at the face of everyone.
Since the Ovo Smart app broke into the market, Vin Global Technologies have continued to record accelerating growth, and even though the tech firm is yet to get a major investor, it now has over 20,000 customers across Africa.
At first, when we brought it out on social media, few people came to patronize us. They saw that it was good and they started spreading the news. They started spreading everything, letting people know that we are using this thing. Like our smart locks, there are people. People have been using it for 2 years, 2 years plus, without no issues. So you don't need electricity to run the smart app. It uses a finger battery. So after 1 year, all you have to do is to change your finger battery. So people started advertising for us, people we don't even know. They started advertising our product for us because they've used it and it's working. So we started, we have influencers that helps us to do all that as well. And when the influencers does that, people use our product and see that it's of good quality, because we chose quality over quantity. So people saw that our products were of good quality, and then that was how the marketing level started. We started moving from places to places, going to real estate developers, showing them what we have, and from that we keep on. That was how we started expanding. Right now, we don't have investors at the moment, but we have up to 23,000 plus customers. We have a lot of customers that are patronizing us already, and we have more coming each day. We have customers coming from South Africa, from Ghana, from Cameroon, from Sierra Leone, from Nigeria. We have people buying our product from all these African countries. We don't have investors at the moment, but our product is growing because it's of good quality, and all our products are 2 years warranty.
Onyeka says the future projection is for his innovation to break into the international market and in extension save Nigerians from bogus electricity consumption, which makes them pay more.
In the next 4 or 5 years, I want our company, Vin Global Technologies. I want my company, Vin Global Technologies, to be talk of the world. I want us to be the #1 in automation system and all that. I'm making sure that every home offices and facilities have our products all over the world.
At a time when authorities in the country continues to seek a lasting solution to energy consumption and increased electricity tariff, Onyeka's innovation, if expanded, might be the light at the end of the tunnel. I'm actually impressed by the good work these guys are doing to improve technology in Nigeria. Anyways, this is where we'll be signing out on the program today. Until I come your way next time, I am Abisola Adebayo. Bye.
Hello and welcome to the program. I am Deji Bademasi. It appears Nigeria is witnessing a resurgence of insecurity after a cooling off period, especially before and during the election period. Just weeks after the general elections, the country has witnessed a number of violent attacks and kidnappings in a number of states in the country. In Benue State, north-central Nigeria, no fewer than 100 persons have been killed in attacks on several communities blamed on armed headers. So far, 18 out of the 23 local government areas of the state has witnessed or have witnessed one form of attack or the other in recent times. The Benue State government says about 5,138 people have been killed in violent attacks in the state within 8 years. This is what the governor now said when he visited the Benue State Teaching Hospital after the recent attack.
The president must go beyond sympathy message and condolence messages, which are greatly appreciated. Within the space of 1 week, we're having more than 100 people killed. And if that continues, it means we shall be completely annihilated from this country. And this is not right. And so the president has charged the security agencies to stand up to their responsibilities. They've been doing so much, that I know. I know the challenges they have, funding, equipment. They are grossly inadequate to cover all the areas. But something has to be done. That was why we brought the idea of community volunteer guards. If the federal government will also accept to arm this or take them over and train them and arm them, I think it will do a lot of good.
In all, we have received 38. Of this number, 20 of them are women, or females, better put, ranging from age between 2 to 60. 10 of them are also children, most of them 2, 3, 6 years old, and we have only about 7 males. Again, we observe the nature of the injuries. If you have gone through, you notice that a good number of them that survived and reached here were attacked with intent to kill. We reached that conclusion with ease because if you look at the nature of the injuries, they targeted their head and neck region.
Now, in the northwest of the country, particularly in Zamfara and Katsina states, over 80 persons were reportedly abducted when armed bandits raided some communities, now remote communities in both states over a week ago. All of these incidents would appear to suggest some kind of resurgence of insecurity in the country. But let's delve into the issue further. I'm now being joined on the show by Dr. Kabir Adamu, who is the Managing Director of Beacon Consulting Limited, a security consulting firm based in Abuja. Dr. Adamu, thank you very much for joining us on the program. It's quite worrisome what we are seeing at the moment. Is this some kind of resurgence in insecurity across the country?
Yes, DG, it is a serious issue. There is a common thread between all the incidents that have occurred in the last few weeks. And you're right. As you know, I run a consultancy and we keep a database of these incidents. So between the 4th and the 5th week of March, as well as the 1st and 2nd weeks of April, we've seen an increase in the security incidents that we've been monitoring. So clearly what it meant is that during the elections, of course, the presidential elections on February 25th and the governorship elections are held on March 18th, it appeared there was adequate security deployment in almost all the nooks and crannies of Nigeria, and that limited the capacity and the ability of the non-state armed groups, and that's the common thread in all the incidents. It limited their ability to move around and to carry out the kind of attacks that sadly Nigeria was used to before the elections. Now, after the elections, it appeared that a significant number of those deployments were pulled back, and so the spaces opened up for these non-state actors to continue their activities. Another possibility is the cashless policy. You recall that starting from 31st of January, the government introduced the cashless policy, which was highly controversial. And at a point, the government had to reverse its steps. And so it has now opened up the coffers, as it were. And now there is more cash in circulation than there were between January 31st and, let's say, the 3rd and week of March 2023. Specifically to kidnap for ransom incidents that we're seeing in parts of Katsina and Zamfara state, as well as possibly Kaduna and Niger state. So it's a combination of several factors, but the chief among them is this teen deployment of security forces in rural areas that has opened up spaces for these armed non-state actors to become more versatile and carry out the kind of attacks they've been carrying out recently.
All right. At the moment, we have a president-elect, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, and of course, he did make a very big issue out of security when he campaigned for the position. And of course, you must have seen his manifesto. He dwelt so much now on security, saying that he's going to deal with insecurity. He's going to ensure that there's security across the country. But now we're having some kind of resurgence. If you were to set the agenda for him now, what exactly do you think should be his priority when it comes to tackling insecurity in this country?
So sadly, it's a little bit too late to set agenda in the sense that all the political parties put out manifestos, and we want to assume that it was on the basis of the manifestos that we voted for them. So looking at the APC, it released what it called Renewed Hope. And it was personally signed by Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, as well as Sir Kashim Shettima. And that, for me, is what we can hold them to account on. What are the promises made in that renewed hope document? Number one, carry on with the good aspects of the security management policies that were handled by the President Buhari administration. Number two, introduce new philosophies and technology into the security space. Number three, enhance aerial surveillance. And then the other components would reform of the police, enhanced collaboration and cooperation, closing up the gap using both human and to an extent technology, especially within the ungoverned spaces. So all of these are very good aspects and they are commendable. What remains is how are they going to implement this? Sadly, it was missing in that document, the renewed hope document. So we're hoping that as part of the transition process going on at the moment, and of course behind the scenes, there is a lot of conversations now going on regarding how to implement all of these promises that were made.
Well, there's no question at all that the president-elect has his work cut out when he comes into office. Dealing with the security situation in this country will no doubt demand so much from him. But then he said he's equal to the task. We'll just wait and see how he goes about dealing with the insecurity challenge in the country. Dr. Kabir Adamu, thank you very much for your time and thank you for joining us on the program. Well, we'll take a short break now, and when we come back, brain drain. Just why are Nigerian doctors leaving the country? That's what we'll be discussing next. Stay with us, don't go away. Welcome back. Now, brain drain is a big issue in Nigeria's health sector at the moment, considering the high number of medical professionals who are migrating to Western countries in search of better working conditions. This migration has led to a severe shortage of doctors and nurses in hospitals across Nigeria. At the moment, doctors to patient ratio in the country stands at 1 doctor to 5,000 patients. 1 doctor to 5,000 patients. Now, the World Health Organization recommended ratio is 1 doctor to 600 patients. Now, that tells you how bad the situation is in Nigeria. It's literally the same story across sub-Saharan Africa. Yet, richer countries continue to poach medical personnel from African countries like Nigeria. To address the problem, the House of Representatives is currently working on a bill to amend the Medical and Dental Council of Nigeria Act to stop the migration of Nigerian-trained medical practitioners. The proposed bill, which has passed a second reading, is to prevent Nigeria-trained medical or dental practitioners from being granted full licenses until they have worked for a minimum of 5 years in the country, as part of measures to address brain drain in the sector. According to Ganu Johnson, who is a sponsor of the bill, it is only fair for medical practitioners who enjoy taxpayers' subsidies on their training to give back to society. Well, the issue, of course, as I said, is generating a lot of controversy. Naturally, some individuals and groups have expressed their displeasure over the bill, saying it's an infringement on the fundamental human rights of doctors in the country. But global health experts have expressed serious worry over the issue, saying if developed countries continue to poach medical workers from poorer countries, the situation could trigger a more serious health crisis in less developed countries. In fact, some health experts have described the poaching as a crime. Perhaps heeding the warning, the United Kingdom has placed Nigeria and some other developing countries on the red list of countries that should not be actively targeted for recruitment by health and social care employers. But what difference will this make? Joining me to discuss this worrisome development is Dr. Toluwani Onrugbeja, who is a Senior Registrar, Department of Orthopedics and Trauma, Lagos State University Teaching Hospital, LASUT. Also joining us is a medical practitioner, Dr. Tuyi Mebaodu. Gentlemen, thank you very much for coming on the program. Let me start with you, Dr. Onrugbeja. Let's talk about this bill. What do you make of it?
The bill is one that identifies the problem, a very crucial problem. However, it's not well thought out, because the preferred solution here does not solve the problem in any way. And if anything, it may actually produce the exact opposite of what it's intended to achieve. Right? I would not want to go into analyzing the specifics yet, but generally speaking, the bill is ill thought of. It's tantamount to slavery, modern day slavery, and some of us perceive it as a direct target at medical practitioners. Because talking about subsidized education, we all enjoyed subsidized education. Every university graduate in Nigeria that went through a public system has enjoyed this same subsidy. If anything, medical practitioners pay the most in most universities. Our school fees are higher than the average university graduate. So why then are we being targeted here? Other professionals are also leaving the country. Why are you targeting medical practitioners?
Question of, do you think this is a question of medical personnel now being targeted, or that the medical profession now is being targeted, or that this is just a moral issue, and that whether we like it or not, the role doctors play in society is very important? Yes, you could argue that they may not be well appreciated here, but it also raises a moral and ethical issue if our doctors are just poached the way they are being poached now. At the end of the day, we're left with nothing.
Okay, definitely, doctors are being pushed. Our IT personnel are being pushed. Nurses are being pushed. Lawyers are being pushed. Professionals all around the country are being pushed. You should give them something to keep them here. We don't then put a barricade and say you cannot go out. That is not how to treat people who you think are that important.
But in this case, they are not saying you cannot go out. They are saying, look, at least do 5 years here before you go out.
Let's then spread it around and let's see if it works.
All right. I'll come back to you. There's still a problem with your network. I hope we're able to sort it out. But let me come to you, Dr. Mebanwadu. You've been a medical practitioner for several years now. You practice here, and give me your own take on this bill.
Expose the depth of poverty of thinking in governance, the depth of poverty of thinking in politics and public space. You used one word, poaching. No. It's the developing countries themselves that are pushing their doctors and experts away from the country. They are the ones sending them away. They are the ones creating conditions that become so terrible for them to work in this part of the world, even when they so desire to do that. And then it's just like at the same time trying to beat a child and telling the child never to cry. Why do I say this? First and foremost, Ghanaian Solomon came up and said that he wants doctors to stay in Nigeria for 5 years. And he gave just one reason, because he felt that they are being subsidized in the payment of their training. I have younger ones that are studying medicine. I also, have even daughter that is starting to become a doctor. I know what it costs. I know. I'm asking the question: where is the subsidy coming from?
No, but we can't deny the fact that there's subsidy. There's subsidy in education in this country.
Hold on. Now, I have, apart from studying in Nigeria, I've studied elsewhere. Okay, my postgraduate was done in Sweden. Okay, in Uppsala University, number 10 in Europe. And it's still in the same medicine. I didn't pay a dime.
You probably got a scholarship.
No. Just hold on. So because when people when they trade lies and want to make it the national discourse and make it the truth, it becomes so difficult. They have to go and sit down and do a comparative analysis, okay, of how doctors are trained elsewhere. The model they bring up to us is the model of US, where of course you have to look for money and they keep increasing everything about education. But we have countries even including Cuba. Okay, are you listening to me? Even including Cuba, that is having one of the best set of doctors and had to actually donate doctors to Italy when they had crisis during the COVID problem. And they are being trained free of charge, everybody. So now the big question in this country is this. First and foremost, you are having a ratio of about one doctor to, you said 5,000
patients.
Some say 8,000, and you are missing, and then you have a gap, okay, of about 12,000 doctors you have to train every year, and your capacity to train is just 3,000 doctors. That's the maximum. The maximum capacity you can train in Nigeria is 3,000. You have repeated strikes, lecturer not satisfied, everywhere not equipped. Now, let me also surprise you. When these young doctors finished, go ask Dr. Orugbeja. These young doctors, they are still looking around, influences, trying to push their parents, everybody for influences for them to do housemanship. Even those that are finishing, you are not placing them in housemanship. Those that want to do postgraduate study, there's no space to train them, no enough space to train them. Now, these doctors will finish, they will stay 1, 2, 3 years. Try hustling for housemanship, hustling for it, some even up to 5 years, hustling for training to become consultants. And then now you want them to stay here and be looking for what, Abi? So this guy will now have to sit down and start writing exams. So let us dwell on the factor that the developing countries are pushing their health workers away. It's not poaching. I mean, don't.
If you ask me, I would say that's semantics. Whether we like it or not, it's poaching anyway. Because it's poaching. I mean, it's poaching. But what would you say about even some of these global health experts who have said, look, this is a crime, and that if it continues, the world might be facing a very serious health crisis in the future? Because, look, already you have a terrible situation in less developed countries. We're not talking about Nigeria alone here. I mean, the statistics are just the same across sub-Saharan Africa. So how I understand this problem, the problem of African countries not taking care of them. How do you address this ethical and moral issue? Leaving places where they are badly needed and going to places where, whether we like it or not, they are not most needed, if you like.
No, you see, in 2007, in one of the courses I attended in Harvard, we're looking at how to strengthen, human resources for health. And this problem came up 2007 now. This problem came up, and we have to actually start looking at what are the issues. Even America itself is having shortage of health practitioners. America is having shortage. In fact, if you look at the country that is leading in terms of ratio of health doctors to, you have to go to Asia countries, before you see that high number. Even America is at number 3, okay? Now, the question is that, what do we do? And then it became a moral issue, like Riley pointed out during the discussion, that should doctors now leave, or should they be recruiting actively? Now, the thing became so manifest due to COVID, and
yes,
you have to come out and say, listen, that we're going to do a code of conduct for health workforce support and safeguard list. They have to actually start creating health worker support and safeguard, okay? And then in that list, they have 3 codes, either amber color, red color, or green, as the case may be.
Dr. Orugbeja, let me ask you this. How do you think this problem can be resolved? Because whether we like it or not, this is a problem. Our doctors are leaving. How do we stop this brain drain from happening?
All right, thank you. That's a good question. Same question that is plaguing every stakeholder in healthcare in Nigeria. This is a question of the pull and the push, right? There are factors what are the push? Insecurity, unemployment, poor welfareism. Those are the things pushing us out of the system. The same thing applies on the other side. Well, right? So we have factors for going better condition. And what's the working conditions for workers. Why can't we improve the working conditions? Why can't we invest in the sector? Why can't we have better working facilities in our hospitals? Why can't we have better job satisfaction? Why can't we create the avenue for this job satisfaction? Look at the hospitals, very crowded. You have patients complaining. You go home knowing that you could have done better for your patients. At the end of the day, you can't feel satisfied when doing the same job. What about your career progression? You see, young graduates can't find slots for housemanship. They struggle to get that done. I can remember many of my time, and many of my colleagues who had to go to several states to write exams just to get a slot for housemanship. Same thing NYC. In fact, I had to be pushed out of NYC camp. I remember my year, right? Because my license was not ready yet, and also there's something I applied for several months prior to the youth service call-up. You know, the things you find that your career progression is hampered at every step. Things that should be seamless, right? Plus for residency is another issue, right? It's now easier because and things are working for residency, but it's still not easy. Right? So if you have everything highlighted, better welfare for health workers in general, career progressions. You know, people. Some of my colleagues have not even gotten their license for this year, and this is we're in April already, right? So things that can be done seamlessly, we find out that we have to struggle at every step, right? Talk about those of us in a residency training program, you know, very little support. We have to invest a lot to get these things, you know, to get our training done, and we hustle to get patients. Some of us are in surgery department, also to get patients up in the theater because we leave the system to it. Some of them will not find themselves in the theater. And we need all these things for our children to keep going. So we find that the system is individually driven. Right? The system is not encouraging, the system is not working. And when you have such a situation, it's discouraging for the average health worker. It's discouraging for the average doctor. You see your colleagues out there, I've spoken to my colleagues in residency training, and they said they don't spend a dime on their training. Any pound spent is refunded. And most of them, even down to their logos, they don't have to buy anything. Right? They are encouraged to get into training, they are encouraged to practice. And when you see that, and you look at your home country, then the decision is easy for most of us. Why don't you just go to where you are better appreciated and you have working conditions, you have better working,
all right.
So the solution here is for our people to sit down and see how we can. We will definitely not be able to get a level playing ground, right? Because we're dealing with world developed countries. But can we bridge the gap a bit so that the other factors that would encourage people to stay here will then come in, and we find that more people will stay here. In fact, other people that are out there might even be encouraged to come back to the country.
Let me also ask you this: for these developed countries now, what do you think they can also do? Because apart from what we can do, what do you think they can also do? Because we've had suggestions of, look, some of the aids that are coming to Africa, why not use that, for instance, to fund doctors' training? Why not use that to probably help to pay doctors' salaries and all of that? Why not use some of those aids now to improve doctors' welfare? I mean, some of these aids now that are coming from developed world. So what role do you think they also have to play in this?
All right. Definitely, we can play a role of mentorship, right? We can look up to them, learn from their system, and import their ideas down here, right? It's really up to us to step up our game. But I'll tell you what, the other speaker mentioned the fact that people in the United States and the United Kingdom are still suffering from shortage of doctors, right? You mentioned earlier the recommended ratio of doctor to patient, right? And last I checked, Netherlands is the closest to the ideal ratio. You get to some states and you find out that that's two specialists in particular in the whole state, right? And maybe about 80 doctors, that is medical officers in the whole state. Clearly, the ratio is far beyond. I would put it as with considering other states aside from Lagos State and other figures that are put around, to be close to 1 doctor to 20,000 patients. That is absurd, right? You now have other countries trying to meet up with the recommended ratio of one doctor to 500 patients. You wouldn't expect them to stop recruiting doctors because some countries cannot manage theirs, right? So everyone has to, in a way, fend for him or herself. The United Kingdom is doing very well when it comes to training of doctors. I'm aware that there's a program, for example, called MTI, where they help to upgrade medical doctors, and so the program is about a year. Right? So programs, to have courses where they come down here to partner with us or to train us, and we have this partnership. That's, I think we can foster better relationship when it comes to partnership with some of these countries and what they have over there. You know, they can give us equipment to improve our facilities, partnerships, and this can be worked on, right? But I don't see them sending down doctors to come and help us work here or stopping immigration of doctors over to their country, because they are also trying to meet up their targets.
Yes.
Right. So, and the areas of welfareism, we have to sort ourselves. Right. They're not going to pay our doctors' salaries. They're not going to pay our nurses' salaries on our behalf. We have to sort ourselves in this regard.
Yeah. All right, Dr. Toluwani Orungbeja, who is a senior registrar at the Department of Orthopedics at Lagos State University. Hello. Thank you very much for joining us in the program. I think that's where we'll just have to leave it. Earlier, we had Dr. Tuyume Bamadu. Unfortunately, we've not been able to reconnect with him. We'll take a short break now, and we'll be right back. Stay with us. Don't go away.
Opinions are free. Facts
President of the Federal Republic.
We know where the enemy is. 3 places: the Lake Chad Basin, border areas,
reiterated its advice to Nigeria to step up efforts to bring more people into the tax net and increase taxes as a means of generating revenue to cut borrowing. Speaking of reforms tax compliance and tax brackets, citing Nigeria's tax revenues as one of the lowest in the world. Now, these suggestions from sidelines World Bank spring meetings in Washington, D.C. In its latest fiscal monitor released on Thursday, the National Agency also restated the need for Nigeria to phase out its controversial petrol subsidy and redirect such funding to targeted subsidies on critical development drivers like health and education. According to the Debt Management Office, the country's debt profile is in excess of 42 trillion naira, with the government planning to borrow more to meet its 2020 Shegun Shokwiton, who is a principal partner, Woodridge and Scott Consulting. Thank you very much, Mr. Shokwiton, for joining us on the program. Not the first time IMF would be advising, giving this kind of advice now, especially when it comes to tax. What do you make of this latest advice now coming from that global financial body?
Well, thanks for having me, and greetings to all Nigerians. Look, like you say, you know, the IMF has been at this for a while, has always been advocating for the same general policy initiatives, or if you like, economic ideology, which typically tends towards the free market ideology, where they're saying, look, stop subsidies for petroleum and increase taxes. And of course, reduce borrowing in this case now. So yeah, I think the IMF has a very good point, especially with regards to our tax revenue challenge. So we always say when we look at the Nigerian budget that the budget appears perhaps small, especially when you do it on a per capita basis. But I think that beyond the size of the budget, we need to look at the revenue question. The challenge that the federal government of Nigeria has faced for as long as I can remember is that we are simply not generating enough revenues as a country. So that definitely needs critical attention. The IMF is spot on with regards to how to go about that. So we need to be talking about increasing our tax rates on the one hand, but in a very carefully articulated and carefully targeted so that you don't stifle growth and development, considering the fact that Nigeria is burdened with a very a heavy poverty population of people living below the poverty line. So we need to increase our tax rates in a very targeted and careful way. We need to increase very critically the tax net, and I think this is where our government have failed consistently over the years. To increase the tax net is not really as difficult as one might think, but
the question is, if it's not as difficult, why have we not been able to do it? Because not quite long ago, we heard when the Minister of Finance at some point said, I understand the number has gone up significantly, very low, among the lowest. So why is it so difficult for us to do that?
Well, first of all, to put some context to that that fact you just raised now about the size of our tax net, and maybe closely related, the revenue, the size of our revenue, the tax revenue. Just like the IMF report says, in Africa, you'll be shocked to find that Nigeria, I think only one country is lower than Nigeria in terms of the tax to GDP ratio. Nigeria's tax to GDP ratio is 3.6%, lower than countries like Togo, lower than countries like even the DR Congo that is at war, lower than, like I said, it's one of the lowest in Africa, one of the lowest in the world, the fourth lowest in the world. And for a country with a population of 200 million plus, reputed to have well over 12 million registered SMEs, you find that this number is atrocious. And so now, to address the question of why it is so, I think it's very closely related to our lack of data as a country. So we do not have a very, very well unified, not have a very well-run business identity data as well. So, the ease of doing business conversation that we've had, for quite a while now, is a question that needs to be looked at. We need to find a way to capture officially the small business. We have millions and millions and millions of people that are running, businesses on a very small scale, 50,000 to 100,000 naira in turnover, maybe per day, that are completely below the radar. Those people need to be brought into the tax net and taxed in a very careful way that will not stifle their growth, that will not affect their revenues significantly. If we do this, our tax to GDP ratio can be doubled very easily. We're almost at the bottom. So achieving a tax to GDP ratio of say 10% or 15% in the next 2 to 3 years is actually a very reasonable target. But it will take some very well articulated policy initiatives from the government.
Now, you did talk about raising the rate and of course, expanding the tax net. Some people have argued that rather than raise rate, maybe the government should just concentrate on expanding the tax net. That because as at the moment, Since you do not have enough people paying tax, why not get more people to pay tax first before you now begin to talk about raising the rate? I'm just wondering, which should come first?
Yeah, yeah, you're right, especially when you do look at the fact that our poverty challenge, the fact that you have 133 million people living in multidimensional poverty, and if you look beyond multidimensional poverty, you probably have some people that you still add to that number. However, it's not. I don't think it would be enough to increase the tax net, because if it were that easy, especially for our governments and their notorious inefficiency, notorious perhaps incompetence, then they would have done it. So I think, yes, we must raise the tax rates, but it has to be carefully targeted. And again, you have to wonder who the people are that are crafting our fiscal policies. So for example, raising tax rates with regards to luxury goods will be one very easy win. Raising tax rate with regards to excise duties, where you're taxing things that people really don't need, to survive on a daily basis, will be another very quick win. So we can raise tax rates. We can look at capital gains tax, for example, as another area where we can carefully, everything must be carefully done so you don't affect growth and you don't stifle development. But tax rates can be raised. And because you will be targeting the upper income class, both in terms of individuals and large corporates, you can actually generate a significant volume of additional revenue based on increasing tax rates. It will be a quick win and a low-hanging fruit. The more difficult one is increasing the tax net. So yes, it might sound like it's better to increase the tax net, but because this is tied directly to availability of data and registration of businesses, capturing of business activities, and all of that, then it will take a bit more time to achieve than just carefully targeting our tax rates at specific sectors and specific players within the economy.
I understand you perfectly. Let's talk about the issue of subsidy coming up once again. It's not the first time we would get this advice from the IMF asking us to remove subsidy. The government has said it's going to do that by June, probably before then, before this government leaves. It appears everything is in place to get the subsidy removed, even though the refineries, as some would say, are not working yet. But the way it's looking, it's beginning to look like the next government, this is going to be something that the next government will have to decide how it should deal with it. Now, what do you think about this whole issue about subsidy removal?
Look, again, Deji, we have been on this subsidy thing for as long as I can remember. And the most recent significant effort towards the removal of subsidy happened in 2012. And you remember the Occupy Nigeria protests was wide-ranging, and happened all over the country. The mantra then of people in opposition to subsidy removal was, do not kill subsidies, kill the corruption that is within the subsidy system. And I think that the argument has not changed. At that time, the then Minister of Finance and the central bank governor promised that within 3 years of subsidy removal at that time, that they would have, I think they said, 4 additional greenfield refineries, in addition to the 4 existing government refineries. That was 12 years ago. 12 years. As we speak now, we do not have 1 single additional refinery from government, and we only have that one by the private operator that is about to take off. So you have to ask yourself, we do need to take the subsidies out, but why have we not addressed the fundamental issues that must precede removal of subsidy? Local production, very, very critical. If we are not producing petroleum products locally, removal of subsidy entirely will kill the economy. It will kill the economy. Operators in that sector have said that when subsidy goes, that we'll be talking of pump prices of maybe between 750 to 800 naira. That's a 400% increase over what we have now. And I tell you, a lot of people will simply not be able to operate anymore. Cars will have to be parked at home, and you might not even be able to take buses because transportation costs will go up.
So
the government has spoken about
what do you think? What do you think then?
But,
sorry to interject. So what do you think then should happen?
No
because look, at the moment we're doing about, is it more than 6 trillion per annum on,
Yeah,
on
per
subsidy?
annum.
And that, the figure is likely to go up because consumption level is going up. The price of crude is also going up. I'm just wondering, it's plain that this is not sustainable. So how do we deal with this? How does the government, because you don't remove it, I'm just wondering where the government will get the money to pay.
Look, it's very simple. For me, it's very simple. However, I know that for the guys in government, it might not be so simple, because a lot of political will and sincerity will be required. Before you take out the subsidy, you must produce PMS locally. It's a must. If you do not do that, taking the subsidies will only make things worse. I can guarantee you that. And you will see, June is just around the corner. When the subsidies go, if the government actually has the courage to do it, you'll see that the country will, simply go into a crisis, and the policy will be reversed. So it's not the way to go. What the government needs to do might not be simple, but it has to be done. One, we must reduce the cost of governance. We must reduce the cost of governance as a matter of priority and as a matter of urgency. Two, we must increase revenue. So again, this is where the advice from the IMF comes into play. There are low-hanging fruits for the government that if they implement, you can send the Supplementary Finance Act, for example, to the National Assembly, and, by June, you could increase certain taxes, and that might possibly increase the government revenues, let's say, just hypothetically speaking, by 500 billion naira. That shaves off a portion of the 3.36 trillion subsidy for the half year. So there are a lot of other things, measures like this that can be taken to increase revenues so that you can accommodate the subsidies in the short term. If you do not deal with this and you take the subsidies out, DG, I think the government, let's not forget that this is a government, we're going to be talking about an administration that is just starting under very controversial, circumstances where legitimacy is even being called to question and all of that. You do not want to add this type of spark to that already very potentially explosive situation. So I would strongly caution the government to tread softly on the subsidy removal issue, look at the tax revenue issue, look at how to significantly boost revenues, in the next 6 months so that we can accommodate those subsidy bills for the short term. I'm really
struggling to see where the revenue will come from.
The subsidy system, sorry.
Yeah, I mean, I'm really struggling to see where that revenue will come from to shave off, just as you said, half year, over 3 trillion in petrol subsidy. What do you think of this $800 million facility now that we've just received from the World Bank? Of course, the government has said it's going to deploy that as palliatives now to soften the effect of subsidy removal. You don't think that will also make a difference?
I'm sorry, it will make absolutely zero difference, for a simple reason. If you just do the numbers are very easy to do. The government has already said this amount will go directly, to the 50 million most vulnerable on their social vulnerability register. 50 million people sharing $800 million, DG. It comes to just above 7,000 naira per head, one-time payment. How is this a palliative? This does not address the significant loss of purchasing power, loss of the pocket, revenue to the pocket of the average Nigerian that this would mean. This would not address the significant increase in cost of living that this will mean. Once you take the subsidies out, transportation costs will go up, food prices will go up, rent, will go up. Everything will go up significantly immediately. It's going to be an immediate response, So 7,000 naira to 50 million people does absolutely nothing. If the government wants to talk about palliatives, we definitely will not be talking of $800 million. We'll be talking in the region of several billions, maybe 10 billion, maybe 20 billion, just picking off the top of my head. And we'll be talking about very carefully designed palliative measures that will deal with things like public transportation, that will deal with things like agriculture, and in boosting of productivity and getting farm produce, as cheap as possible to the marketplaces and stuff like that. Not sharing, a conditional cash transfer scheme that will just be a one-time thing. It will not solve the problem. So this $800 million for me, $800 million is a non-starter.
The Dangote refinery is expected to come into operation soon, probably before June. And we also understand that at least one of the refineries that the government is fixing to might come into operation. You don't think this refinery is coming into operation now could help make the difference and enable the removal of this subsidy?
If Dangote comes on stream, then yes, we'll be talking. Because Dangote refinery, if memory serves me well, I think their production capacity is about 600 barrels per day, 600,000 barrels per day, pardon me, which should just about cover our local consumption needs. The local refineries, our 4 local government-owned refineries, have been under turnaround maintenance for about 2 years now, and a cumulative amount of about $4.5 billion have been spent. They were supposed to have come on stream as at March this year. They have missed that deadline, and from all indications, they are nowhere near commencement of production, perhaps except for one, just like you said. So let's assume that Dangote comes on stream, and maybe one of our local refineries also come on stream, and we're able to produce the volume of locally required PMS as required. Then removing the subsidy can become a conversation that we can look at, because if you are producing locally, then the pump price of PMS will probably not be anywhere near what the marketers are talking about now, and might be more sustainable. But is a huge amount. Let's also, when Dangote refinery comes on, they are not going to go to full capacity immediately. It's going to take a couple of months, maybe a year, before they hit full capacity. So it's still a situation in you can't plan this type of very
Just by way of information, the Dangote refinery actually has capacity to do 650,000 barrels of oil. That's massive. Thank you for sharing your thoughts with us. Thank you so very much.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Well, that's how much we can take on the show today or this week. We thank you very much for watching. We'll see you again next week. Bye-bye.
There's time for everything. A time to make promises and a time to assess scorecard. What would you want to be remembered for? Promises fulfilled or broken promises? President Buhari's spokesperson, Femi Adesina, recently informed Nigerians that Buhari is leaving Nigeria better than he met it. Buhari is leaving, oh. I beg, I want to ask, was this statement made against the backdrop of the comfort he's enjoying in the presidential villa or against the promises Buhari made in 2015? Anyway, don't blame them. They forget so soon that manifestos are the oil with which the yam of governance is eaten and must not be adulterated. But since they don't adulterate them and don't forget, let's remind Additional of Buhari's promises in 2015. Buhari promised to ban political government officials from going abroad for medical treatment. But he himself and most of his ministers, including the president-elect, they japa regularly for medical tourism every now and then. He promised to introduce national gender policy and offer 35% appointment to women. But anyway, instead of 25%, they offer 35 women political appointment. After all, 35, not 35. Voice is scam. Creation of 3 million jobs per annum. At least by 4 years, it would have been 12 million jobs. And in 8 years, 24 million jobs, including employment scheme where 740,000 graduates across the 36 states of the Federation and the FCT. Sorry, I forgot they created jobs like kidnapping, banditry, herdsmen invasion of Benue villages. So, after all, Femi might be right. Quite disheartening though. But unemployment in Nigeria today is at about 30% or more from the 18% they met it. Go and verify from the Nigeria Bureau of Statistics. Apologies to Peter Obi. The revival of our steel industry at Jakuta and Alaja was at least another promise. But you know they only revive the steel industry in their APC constitution. They also promised creation of social welfare program where a minimum of 5,000 naira will be paid to 25 million poorest of the poor and most vulnerable in Nigeria, including our unemployed graduates. Even though we remember that the VP, Professor Yomi Oshibanjo, they share money for market, CBN gave loan to farmers. Don't ask me if they are paid back. And government has borrowed another $800 million to share, $800 million to share to Nigeria. I will leave you, the listeners, to score them on this one, whether they fulfill the promise. How about the promise of building one of the fastest growing economy in the world with a real GDP growth average of 10% per annum? Well, unfortunately, the country today is one of the poorest countries in the world with our take-home pay unable to take anybody home. And prices of goods and services are outside the reach of the common man. Anyway, what do detractors like me know? After all, Femi Adesina say Nigeria is better. They also promise to increase our electricity generation, transmission and distribution to at least 20,000 megawatts within 4 years and an increment of 50,000 megawatts within 8 years with a view to achieving 24 hours uninterrupted supply. Anyway, I don't talk anything about this one. But it is obvious that Buhari scammed unsuspecting voters because till now, our total installed capacity is 7,500 megawatts and we have not been able to distribute more than 5,000 megawatts. Better well, Bros Femi say, we are better off. We hope so. I can't even believe that this government had promised to upgrade all federal-owned hospitals to world-class facilities and increase the number of medical doctors from 19 to 1,000 persons to at least 50 to 1,000 persons. And not only jackpotting for medical tourism as the hospitals are worse off, but they are also struggling to hold down the few medical doctors from jackpotting as a result of poor condition of service, abysmal remuneration, and lack of facility. But really, it's not funny. You couldn't increase the numbers you met, yet you are still unable to keep the few ones available. And yet, I'm grateful for saying we are not better off. Anyway, Goodluck Jonathan will be laughing by now. We are all crying. Buhari is leaving. How about the promises of creating 2 million homeowners in their first year in office and then subsequent 1 million homeowners annually? If you ask about promises of making Naira stable at the international market, they will tell you it wasn't Buhari that made the promise, but the party. But they made the Naira at 199 to $1 on the May 25th, 2015. Today, it is hovering between 740 and 745. And our CBN governor is busy chasing Aboki FS or holding Naira note. Which juju push us into this one chance? Oh, sorry. Bros Femo, no vessel. We are better off. On serious bunch. The unkept promises, plentiful, including amending the constitution to remove immunity for governors and president, providing full disclosure to the media of all government contracts above 100 million naira prior to award and during implementation, creation of commodity board to ensure best practices for selected crops. At least I know that one. Solid of reduce and possibly eliminate practices. Even I need them now, they confused whether they have improved, progress or retrogress. I'm really trying hard to look at the positive of this government that made Pastor Femi Adesina claim that Buhari has left Nigeria better than he met it. And then I remembered that they passed the Petroleum Industry Act. Even though the implementation is topsy-turvy, they promised to eradicate Boko Haram, though, and bring back our guests. But 9 years after, Some of our guests are still in captivity, even though our military men are trying daily to suppress and defeat Boko Haram and the general security with the best they can. I also remember that they built the second Niger bridge and built more railway than the previous government. But the only thing be said, the railway now became so unsafe that it turned into a kidnapping den. May God rest the soul of Nigerians that died, both the military and civilians, for no fault of theirs but the fact that they are Nigerians. I will therefore advocate, as the swearing-in draw closer, the incoming government should not bother to take us on another voyage of rhetorics and promises, and nobody should request me to set agenda for anybody. Let them just start from the party, not just start from the party manifestos, but from the unkept promises of APC and Buhari government that Nigerians subscribed to pre-2015, but ended up as weapon of mass deceit by APC and Buhari. Once they do that, at least we'll start on a good trajectory. That's all for today. Until next week, when we come your way, keep the faith by kindly checking out our various social media platforms shown on your screen for previous episodes. Remember, you can't force peace. Just ensure we all have equal right and justice, and we all have peace. See you next week.